What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my review of Solasta's Inner Strength DLC, which brought us 3 classes as well as a new race. And in addition to that DLC, we also saw the release of a large update that is free for the base game. So quite a few things to cover here, but if you're unaware, Solasta is a fantastic interpretation of 5e D&D in a more rules as written fashion, albeit with a lot of homebrew as they used the SRD rule set. I've covered Solasta quite a bit in the past, so if you want to check out any of those videos, feel free. But on to the topic at hand. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the free update and everything it brought, as it is a very substantial update. So first things first, we have 17 new feats, which add a good amount of variety to the base game. We see things here that allow us to automatically identify magic items when we pick them up, a range of touch feats that will add elemental damage to your attacks equal to your proficiency bonus, and granting you advantage on attack rolls when using Ready or Overwatch. A lot of cool new feats added, but we also have 3 new backgrounds. These are primarily added for the new classes, but they are free for everyone. It is worth mentioning, though, that these will not include a unique quest to the base campaign like all of the other backgrounds do. These ones will only give you language proficiencies as well as skill proficiencies. And in addition to that, we have the great addition of controller support added for PC, which is always great to see. Some people, even on PC, prefer to use a controller. And if that wasn't enough, we also saw free improvements to the Dungeon Maker. Solasta has a sort of campaign editor where you can make your own campaigns. There's a ton of great community ones, by the way, to check out, which you should definitely use some of these new classes for. But the Dungeon Maker improvements allow you to use boss monsters, which includes all their legendary actions, as well as a slew of regular monsters and items from the main campaigns were officially added to the Dungeon Maker support. So very cool stuff overall, great free update, but now let's actually get to the paid stuff. And that is, of course, the 3 new classes as well as the race. The new race is the Dragonborn. This race gets a +2 to strength, a +1 to charisma, damage resistance, and a breath weapon, of course, linked to whatever kind of Dragonborn they are. So if they're a black dragon, they get resistance to acid and acid breath, so on and so forth. For the new classes, we have the Bard, the Monk, and the Warlock, each of which comes with 4 unique subclasses. Of these 4 subclasses, one is from the regular rule set that you should be pretty familiar with. For instance, the Warlocks get the Fiend. One of them is community driven, meaning that they held a contest and community submissions won and were adapted to the class. And one is sort of a homebrew subclass from Tactical Adventures, the developers themselves. And then one more is added if you also own the Lost Valley DLC. The Lost Valley DLC, which is a separate campaign for Solasta, adds a subclass to every single class, which includes the classes in this DLC. And I imagine some people will be throwing them on the Dragonborn, which comes with some fun, unique visual customizations, though graphical fidelity's never exactly been Solasta's forte. But all of these combine to add even more options to a game that people enjoy quite a bit, especially again in that rules as written approach to 5e. While we're not going to go into every subclass in great depth, for the most part I liked what I saw. A lot of them offer great additions to a class or just options in general. For instance, the Timekeeper Warlock allows you to deal delayed damage to an enemy, where they take a small amount of damage from your attacks at the beginning of each of their attacks, and at level 10 they can even cast haste on their allies, without the penalty of the lethargy that usually comes after the end of haste. So lots of cool additions like that. There's something for all of those classes. But to wrap this up a little bit and not drone on for too long, I would say whether or not you really want this DLC comes down to whether or not you like any of those classes. And for me personally, the Warlock is my favorite class in 5e D&D, so obviously it was a must-buy for someone like myself, and I think the way they implemented them into the game was done really well, where there's something familiar as well as new for just about everybody who does like these classes or has yet to play them. Combine that with the DLC's asking price of $8 US, and I honestly think you have a great little bit of DLC that fully fleshes out the classes in the player's handbook for 5e D&D. At this point, they've added basically everything. They were originally not planning to add nearly this many, but people's support of the game allowed them to do so. So while I'm clearly a fan of the DLC, I think it's a great addition, I will say that as far as Solasta goes, in the future, what I would love to see them do is one more full story campaign that makes use of all the classes that they now have implemented before they move on to something else. Because while it's great to use these classes in the 2 campaigns that have already released, I would love to see a campaign from Tactical Adventures that covers the entirety of the system they've worked on and the lessons they've learned up to this point as a sort of last hurrah before they move on to a next project. At which point they can let the community take over and make all sorts of fantastic modules via the Dungeon Maker, and I think they'll be leaving this game in a fantastic place. But as far as the matter of today goes, the DLC, it's a great addition. I'm a fan of the way they implemented all this stuff. The new subclasses feel unique and interesting, and as someone who loves playing a Warlock in particular, I thought the Timekeeper subclass was a really interesting take on it. But that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. November still has quite a bit to go, and there are plenty of games I would like to cover. But regardless of all that, truly, thank you. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.